The escape pod struck Earth's atmosphere like a meteor, carving a brilliant streak across the Montana night sky before crashing into a wheat field 3 miles from the nearest town. Inside, Princess Lyra of the Celestial Throne clutched her harness as the pod tore through soil and stone, finally coming to rest in a smoking crater. Her hands trembled as she released the safety locks. The air that rushed in smelled wrong, thick with unfamiliar compounds, but her scanner indicated it was breathable. She stumbled out onto alien ground, her ceremonial robes torn and singed, her crown lost somewhere in the chaos of her flight. Behind her, in the depths of space, her world burned. The rebellion had struck without warning, overwhelming the palace guards in minutes. Her father, the king, had shoved her into the emergency pod with his final breath. His blood still warm on her hands as the launch sequence engaged. Now she was alone on a primitive world. Hunted by those who wanted her bloodline erased from history. Jake Morrison heard the crash from his farmhouse porch, where he sat nursing a beer and wondering how he'd pay next month's mortgage. The light show was impressive enough, but the distant boom that followed sent his dog barking mad. He grabbed his truck keys and a flashlight, more curious than concerned, and drove toward the impact site. What he found defied explanation. The crater was still warm, edges glowing faintly orange. At its center sat something that looked like a metallic seed pod, its surface covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly. And standing beside it, looking utterly lost, was a woman. No, not a woman. She was humanoid, certainly, but her skin held a faint luminescence, and her eyes were too large, too bright, shifting between colors he couldn't name. Her clothing, despite the damage, was clearly crafted from materials beyond Earth's capability. "Please," she said, and Jake nearly jumped out of his skin. Her voice was melodic, but carried an odd resonance, and yet he understood every word. "I need sanctuary. They are coming." Jake's mind raced through possibilities. Military experiment. Hollywood stunt. Elaborate prank. None of them fit what his eyes were telling him. "Who's coming?" he asked. Lyra's legs gave out, and she collapsed to her knees. The translator implant in her throat worked perfectly, converting her words to his language, but exhaustion was overtaking her. She had been fleeing for 2 days, jumping through 3 star systems before her pod's drive finally gave out. "The usurpers," she whispered. "They killed my family, destroyed my world's government. I am the last of the royal line, and they will not stop until I am dead." Jake stood frozen, his rational mind screaming that this was impossible while his eyes insisted it was real. The woman, or whatever she was, looked up at him with such desperate hope that something in his chest twisted. "You're asking me to hide you," he said slowly. "I am imploring you," Lyra corrected, her voice breaking. "I have nothing to offer you. No wealth, no power, no home. I am a princess of ash and memory, and I am begging you, human, please give me shelter." Jake Morrison had lived alone for 5 years, ever since his wife left him for a lawyer in Denver. He worked his farm alone, ate dinner alone, watched television alone. He had grown comfortable with isolation, even preferred it, but he wasn't the kind of man who could turn away someone in need, no matter how bizarre the circumstances. "Come on," he said, extending his hand. "Let's get you inside before someone else sees that crater." Lyra took his hand, and he pulled her to her feet. Her skin was warm, almost feverish, and when she stumbled, he caught her weight against his shoulder. She was lighter than he expected, as if her bones were hollow like a bird's. They made it back to his truck, and he drove them home through dark country roads, checking his mirrors constantly for pursuit. She sat beside him in silence, staring at the dashboard controls with fascination tinged with despair. "This is all so primitive," she murmured, then caught herself. "I apologize." That was rude. "It's fine," Jake said. I'm guessing you've got faster ways to travel where you're from. Head, Lyra corrected quietly. Past tense. Everything is past tense now. At the farmhouse, he set her up in the guest room, gave her clean clothes that hung loose on her slender frame, and made soup that she ate mechanically, barely tasting it. She answered his questions in fragments, painting a picture of an interstellar civilization torn apart by civil war, of betrayal at the highest levels, of a daughter watching her father die. Why Earth? Jake asked. Of all the planets in the universe, why here? Your world is not part of the Galactic Assembly, Lyra explained. You are isolated, primitive, overlooked. The perfect hiding place for someone who needs to disappear. The pod chose the destination randomly from a list of habitable worlds outside assembly space. And these usurpers, they'll come looking for you? Eventually. They are thorough. But it may take time. Your planet has no beacon markers, no hyperspace lanes. Finding one person on an uncharted world is difficult even with advanced technology. Jake processed this, trying to reconcile his quiet farming life with the concept of interstellar manhunts. So what do you need from me? Lyra met his eyes, and he saw the weight of her loss there, the crushing burden of being the last of her kind. Time, sanctuary, a chance to heal and plan. I cannot offer you payment. I cannot guarantee your safety. But I am asking, human Jake Morrison, will you welcome me into your care? The formal phrasing struck him as oddly ceremonial, as if this was more than a simple request for help. Perhaps in her culture, offering sanctuary carried weight he didn't understand. I'm just a farmer, he said. I don't know anything about alien politics or space wars. But you can stay here as long as you need. Nobody bothers me out here anyway. Something in Lyra's expression cracked, and tears spilled down her luminescent cheeks. They glowed faintly in the dim kitchen light like liquid starlight. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you. Over the following weeks, an unusual routine developed. Jake taught Lyra about Earth, about farming and weather patterns, and the simple rhythms of rural life. She proved surprisingly adaptable, learning quickly, asking endless questions about everything from soil composition to the mechanics of his ancient tractor dot in return. She told him stories of her world, of cities that floated on anti-gravity fields, of music that could reshape matter, of a civilization millions of years old that had spread across hundreds of star systems. She spoke of her childhood in the Crystal Palace, of diplomatic missions to alien worlds, of the weight of duty she had carried since birth. I was trained from infancy to rule, she said one evening as they sat on the porch watching the sunset. Every action calculated, every word measured. I have negotiated treaties and commanded fleets. And now I am here, learning to milk cows and mend fences. It is strange how life reduces us. Or expands us, Jake suggested. Maybe you needed to learn that you're more than a title. Lyra considered this. Perhaps. But I cannot forget what was taken. My father's death, my people's suffering. The usurpers must be stopped. One step at a time, Jake said. First, you survive. Then you figure out the rest. 3 months after her arrival, the first probe found her dot. It appeared in the night sky, a faint glimmer against the stars that Jake would have missed if Lyra hadn't grabbed his arm and pointed. Her face had gone pale, her luminescence dimming with fear. Scanning device, she breathed. They are searching the sector. They watched together as the probe moved slowly across the sky, systematic in its search pattern. When it finally moved beyond the horizon, Lyra sagged with relief. It did not find me. Your planet's magnetic field interferes with their sensors. But they are getting closer. Eventually, they will send ground teams. Jake felt something harden in his chest. Over the past months, Lyra had become more than a strange refugee he was sheltering. She had become a friend, someone who made his quiet life feel less empty. The thought of soldiers coming to drag her away, to kill her for the crime of surviving, filled him with cold anger. "Then we prepare," he said. "You said you were trained to command fleets. Start thinking like a commander again. What do we need to do to keep you safe?" Lyra looked at him, surprise flickering across her alien features. "You would fight for me? Risk your life for someone not of your world?" "You asked me to welcome you into my care," Jake said. "Where I come from, that means something. You're under my protection now, and I don't give that up easy." For the first time since her arrival, Lyra smiled. It transformed her face, making her look younger, less burdened. "Then I chose well when my pod brought me here. Humanity may be primitive in technology, but perhaps you are advanced in ways my people forgot." They began to plan, combining her knowledge of advanced tactics with his understanding of the terrain and Earth's resources. If the usurpers came, they would find not a helpless princess, but a survivor who had learned to fight from an unlikely teacher. And Jake Morrison, simple farmer from Montana, discovered that his life had been waiting for this moment, for this purpose, for this lost princess who had implored him for sanctuary and found instead a guardian. The stars wheeled overhead, indifferent to the small drama unfolding beneath them, as two beings from different worlds prepared to defend their new bond against an empire